Imagine this. The gaslights of London flicker against polished carriage doors as rain whispers down cobblestone streets. The hour is late, too late for respectable company, yet the city still hums beneath its veil of fog and perfume. Inside a grand Mayfair townhouse, you move among chandeliers and murmured laughter, your gloved hand resting on a fan that hides more than your face. Every step, every glance, every motion is a performance. You are a woman of station, poised, adorned, untouchable, and yet your heart pounds with something far less proper. Beneath corseted grace lies a fire you must never show. Because here, in Victorian high society, passion is the most dangerous secret of all. Before we continue, tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Is it the quiet of your room, the hum of a distant city, or perhaps the stillness of dawn? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're here, remember to subscribe to Whispers of History, where we uncover the hidden, the forbidden, and the stories whispered behind closed doors. Tonight, we enter a world where lace gloves concealed trembling fingers, and desire was written not in words, but in the flicker of a candle's flame. The ballroom glitters like a golden cage. You stand among ladies whose smiles are porcelain, whose laughter sounds rehearsed. Fans flutter, a silent language of glances and coded messages. A slight tilt of the wrist means follow me. A flick of silk means danger. You've learned to read them all, though you never speak of it. Because in this world, a woman's reputation is her crown, and one careless look could shatter it forever. A gentleman bows before you, tall, composed, a whisper of scandal trailing behind his name. The music swells. You lower your eyes just long enough to let him see what you shouldn't feel. When he asks for a dance, your voice trembles almost imperceptibly, almost his hand touches yours. Gloved on, gloved, but the shock that runs through you is unmistakable. Around you, conversation hums like bees trapped in crystal, yet all you hear is the rhythm of your own pulse. You move across the marble floor in perfect measure, steps guided by etiquette and hunger alike. His breath brushes your temple as he murmurs something polite, meaningless, but his tone carries heat. You know how this must look to the watching world, to refined figures gliding in perfect decorum. But beneath the music, a battle rages between propriety and the forbidden. Later that night, as the carriages depart and the perfume of roses fades from the air, you linger by the window. Your reflection stares back, immaculate, distant, unreachable, and yet your hand still trembles. That single touch has burned through every layer of restraint you have spent years constructing. Outside, the rain has stopped. Inside, the world expects perfection. You turn away from the mirror, unpinning one jewel at a time. The sound of metal against glass feels louder than thunder, because you know what society does to women who feel too deeply. You've seen it in whispers at tea tables, in the swift disappearance of names once spoken daily in drawing rooms. The woman who follows her heart becomes a cautionary tale. The woman who hides it becomes a saint. And so you hide. Every heartbeat, every memory of warmth, tucked behind lace and silence. But repression has its own language. It speaks through restless nights, trembling sighs, and letters never sent. You've seen other women bear the same mask. Duchesses with too steady smiles, widows with too bright eyes, debutantes already learning the art of pretending. Beneath every polished conversation, 1,000 thoughts go unspoken, and in those unspoken words, passion festers. Imagine the next afternoon, tea served in porcelain, so thin it seems to tremble. You sit among your circle of friends, each one performing the same graceful lies. Talk drifts from weather to gowns, to the Queen's latest decree. But every now and then, a phrase slips out. A mention of an artist's studio, a concert where the violins played too sweetly, a book left open too long upon a shelf. The conversation pauses, eyes glance up, and in that silence, everyone understands. These are not simply pastimes. They are escape routes, small rebellions against a life of constant restraint. One of the women, a marchioness, with a voice soft as velvet, laughs a moment too loudly at some remark. The others notice, they always do. The air thickens with judgment, masked as civility. You watch her recover herself, lowering her gaze, fingers tightening round her cup. For a moment her expression flickers, pride, shame, something more, and then the mask returns. That's how it always is in Victorian high society. Emotion must never outlive the moment it is felt. But behind closed doors, another world exists. The world of letters and secret appointments, of carriage rides to hidden studios where artists paint what words cannot confess, of poetry exchanged beneath the guise of philanthropy. Passion doesn't die in such a world. It adapts. It disguises itself as charity, as learning, as art, and in doing so, it becomes something more dangerous. Tonight, as your maid brushes out your hair, she does not see the wall behind your calm. The pins fall, the curls loosen, and your reflection softens. No longer the perfect lady, just a woman who remembers the warmth of a dance and the thrill of being truly seen. You close your eyes and imagine what could never be spoken aloud, a life lived honestly, without fear or facade. But even that dream feels like defiance. You open your eyes again. The night is quiet, save for the tick of the clock and the whisper of fabric. Tomorrow you will rise, dress, smile, and perform again, as all women of your rank must. But somewhere deep within, the flame still burns. It is small, hidden, and dangerous, the kind of flame that history will never record. Yet without it, no civilization would ever progress. Imagine the morning after the ball. The light filters through lace curtains, pale and unforgiving, as servants move quietly through your chamber. The scent of roses from last night's bouquet has turned faintly sour. You sit at your dressing table, a silver brush in your hand, your thoughts drifting not to the day's appointments, but to the memory of a single glance, one that still lingers like perfume on your skin. The city outside hums to life, but inside, the world feels frozen between duty and desire. You know how the day will unfold. The same routine, the same civility, yet beneath it all, the same restless ache. In the mirror, you adjust your collar higher, concealing the pulse that betrays you. Even reflection must not see what your heart dares to feel. Downstairs, the parlor is filled with the scent of tea and talk. Conversation, in this house, is an art form, sharp as lace, delicate as glass. You take your seat beside Lady Meredith, a woman whose every word drips with measured grace. Around you, they speak of charity events and the latest scandal in Parliament. But every topic is a mask, every tone rehearsed. You notice it now, how laughter always sounds a moment too late, how every gesture hides calculation. One by one, fans flick open like small shields. Behind them, whispers coil through the air. You catch fragments, painting lessons, a visitor at dusk, a letter sent by hand. The phrases mean little to anyone listening casually, but you know better. These are the codes of forbidden lives. Every woman here hides a secret, just as you do. The fans flutter faster when truth approaches, slower when it retreats. When you leave the room, you feel the weight of eyes on your back. The corridors of the house seemed longer today, the air heavier. You pause by the portrait of a long-dead ancestor, a woman with the same composed smile you wear. She too must have known this double life, the performance of virtue over truth. A carriage waits outside, its black lacquer gleaming. You step inside, and as the wheels begin to turn, so does your pulse. You tell your maid you are going to visit a milliner, but that is only half the truth. The streets of London blur past in a haze of rain and smoke. You catch sight of working women hurrying through puddles, faces uncovered, movements unrestrained. For a moment, you envy them their freedom to feel without consequence. Then you look away, as though shame itself could be seen from the window. The carriage stops before a modest townhouse in Bloomsbury. No crest, no liveried servant, nothing to betray the identity of its visitors. You enter quietly, greeted only by the scent of oil paint and turpentine. The artist's studio is dim, sunlight slipping through high windows in slanted beams. He stands waiting, coat unbuttoned, hands flecked with pigment. You say nothing at first. Words would make it real, and reality is dangerous. He gestures toward the canvas, a portrait half finished, your likeness already taking shape. You remove your gloves slowly, your fingers pale against the air. He watches as you take your place, shoulders squared, chin lifted. The silence is thick enough to hear the brush drag against canvas. When he steps closer to adjust the light, his sleeve brushes your arm. The contact is fleeting, accidental perhaps, yet it shatters your composure more completely than any declaration of love ever could. Hours pass, unnoticed. The world beyond the window ceases to exist. In this space, you are not a lady, not a wife, not a name in a ledger. You are a living, breathing woman, unpinned, unguarded. When the sitting ends, he thanks you with the formality of a servant addressing nobility. But his eyes betray it, the same hunger, the same fear. You leave before you can speak, because to speak is to invite ruin. Outside, the air feels colder, the street louder, as if London itself knows what you've done. You draw your veil low and hurry into the carriage. The city resumes its rhythm, and you resume your role. By evening, you are once again the perfect hostess. Candles glow, laughter fills the room, and the memory of the studio feels like a dream pressed beneath layers of silk. Yet, when your fingers brush the edge of your wineglass, you remember the touch of his hand. You wonder how many others in this room have lived the same lie, smiled the same smile. Lady Meredith sits across from you, her fan unmoving for once, her gaze far away. You realize then that every woman here is performing a story that history will never record, stories of quiet rebellions, of love expressed through stolen glances and forbidden art. The men debate politics. The women sit in silence, knowing that their true wars are fought not with armies, but with restraint. When the guests leave and the lights dim, you stand alone before the fire. The flames reflect in your eyes, golden and restless. You think of your portrait, the unfinished version of yourself that exists beyond decorum. A woman not shaped by expectation, but by feeling. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you allow yourself to be her. Just her. Not lady, not wife, not hostess. Only a soul that wants, that feels, that dares. And then, the moment ends. The fire crackles. Somewhere upstairs, the house creaks with the weight of another quiet night. You turn away, extinguishing one candle after another, each flame dying like a heartbeat stilled too soon. As you climb the staircase, the sound of your own steps follows you like an echo of truth. Tomorrow will bring another morning, another round of callers, another round of perfect smiles. But beneath the lace and ritual, the same pulse will remain secret, insistent, alive. And deep down, you know that one day it will break through. For no mask, no rule, no society can suppress passion forever. Not even in the age of Queen Victoria. Night falls softly over London, wrapping the city in velvet shadows. You sit at your writing desk, the flame of a single candle trembling beside you. The house sleeps, the servants long dismissed, and only the faint ticking of the clock reminds you that time still moves. On the desk lies a stack of fine paper, untouched until tonight. Your hand hovers above it, pen poised, the ink glistening like spilled secrets. You tell yourself you will write a letter of thanks, a polite note to an acquaintance, nothing more. But your heart knows better. What you are about to write is dangerous, not because of its words, but because of its truth. You begin carefully, your pen scratching softly. The sentences start formal, restrained. Then something loosens, as if the ink itself remembers the warmth of another's gaze. The phrases grow bolder, your hand steadier. You describe not what was, but what could never be. The way light touched his hair as he painted, the unspoken understanding in a glance. You write as if no one will ever read it, and perhaps no one ever will. Yet each word feels like confession, as though the paper listens with more mercy than the world ever could. When you finish, you fold the letter once, twice, then seal it. For a moment, you hold it to your lips, not in farewell, but in surrender. The candle gutters. You slip the letter into a small drawer beneath the velvet lining, where other letters already rest, a hidden archive of everything you can never say. Some are old, the ink faded. Others are recent, sharp and alive. Together, they form a story that history will never tell. To burn them would be safer. To keep them is rebellion. You close the drawer gently, your pulse echoing in the quiet. The following morning, sunlight floods your room with an almost cruel brightness. The world looks unchanged, yet you feel altered. Every gesture feels heavier with awareness. You move through the rituals of the day, breakfast, correspondence, a walk in the garden, yet all of it feels like theater. You nod to acquaintances, smile where required, but your mind drifts back to that drawer. Every time you pass your desk, you feel its pull, like gravity. The letters whisper in silence, calling you back to the life you've hidden between ink and desire. That afternoon, a messenger arrives with an invitation, an exhibition of portraits at a gallery in Kensington. You recognize the handwriting instantly. Firm, deliberate, familiar. You hesitate. To go would be reckless. To refuse would be unbearable. In the end, propriety yields to longing. You instruct your maid to prepare your carriage. The drive feels endless, the city shimmering under a pale sun. When you arrive, the crowd is elegant, curious, oblivious. And there, hanging in the center of the room, is your likeness. The portrait is not scandalous, not overt. It is subtle, almost innocent. But to you, every brushstroke feels intimate, every shade of light deliberate. You see the truth that others cannot, the faint parting of lips that never speak freely, the eyes that hold both defiance and sorrow. Around you, voices murmur praise, but you hardly hear them. He stands nearby, speaking with another patron, yet you sense his awareness of you. Your gloved hands tighten around your fan. A single glance passes between you, fleeting, restrained, yet weighted with everything unspoken. Later that evening, back in your carriage, you can still feel that look seared into your memory. London glides past the window, lamplight reflected on wet streets, the hum of distant carriages, the rhythm of hooves against stone. You should feel guilt. Instead, you feel alive. The kind of life that cannot exist in daylight or conversation, only in moments stolen between rules. But you know how fragile it is, how quickly whispers can become ruin. When you return home, the house greets you with silence. You dismiss your maid early and sit once more at your desk. You open the drawer, take out one of the old letters, and read it. The words seem to belong to another woman, bolder, freer. You smile faintly, almost sadly. That woman exists only within these pages. You dip your pen again, and a new letter begins to form, each sentence both confession and disguise. You write not to be answered, but to survive. For in an age that denies women voice, even ink becomes an act of defiance. The night deepens. Somewhere in the city, a church bell tolls the hour. You seal the letter, slip it into the drawer, and press your hand against the wood as if it could feel your pulse. Then you rise, extinguishing the candle. Darkness folds around you, soft but absolute. The house sleeps once more, unaware of the small rebellion breathing beneath its roof. You climb into bed, your thoughts echoing like footsteps in a long corridor. As you drift towards sleep, you imagine the letters not as sins, but as witnesses, silent guardians of truth. Perhaps one day, long after you are gone, someone will find them and understand what the world refused to see, that even within the most rigid society, hearts still beat, dreams still burn, and passion, though hidden, never truly dies. Tomorrow will bring more callers, more propriety, more masks. But tonight, the ink has given you something the world never could, a moment of honesty. And as the darkness settles, you realize that even in silence, your story continues to write itself. The weeks pass, and with them, the illusion of calm. London dresses itself in spring finery, lilac-scented air drifting through carriage windows, but beneath the bloom lies unrest. You move through the season's endless routine: garden parties, musicales, charity banquets, each more suffocating than the last. Every event feels like a mirror held too close, reflecting a woman who no longer fits her role. You laugh when required, speak with precision, and wear gowns chosen to please, not to feel. Yet every now and then, a memory slips through the heat of a glance. The whisper of a brush against skin, the forbidden letters still sleeping in their drawer. They are your only truth, and their weight grows heavier with every passing day. One evening, the charade unravels. You attend a gathering hosted by the Duchess of Wexford, a woman whose soirees are famous for civility, masking, scandal. The room glows with lamplight, the scent of wine and gossip thick in the air. Music plays softly from a corner. Laughter drips like honey. As you glide across the floor, your eyes meet his. The painter stands near the piano, speaking to another guest, but his gaze finds you instantly. For a moment, propriety falters. You feel it ripple through your body like heat. Lady Meredith notices. Her fan pauses mid-air, a flicker of alarm crossing her face before she looks away. She knows, though she will never speak. No one ever does, not openly. The dance begins. You accept another man's hand, but your eyes betray you. Across the room, your painter watches, his expression unreadable. The music swells a waltz, elegant and cruel. Every step feels like confession. You turn, pivot, glide, but each movement brings you closer to collapse. The room seems smaller now, the air stifling. You can feel the judgments circling like vultures, though no word is spoken. When the final note fades, applause erupts, and you curtsy, your pulse pounding in your throat. You excuse yourself quickly, slipping through the crowd toward the corridor beyond the ballroom. He follows. You hear his footsteps echo on the marble, measured but urgent. In the dim light of the gallery hall, you stop, unable to move. He reaches you, breath shallow, eyes burning with everything the world forbids. For a long moment, neither of you speaks. Then he whispers your name, and it sounds like both a prayer and a warning. You tell him this cannot continue, that the walls have ears, that even shadows betray. Yet your voice trembles, your resolve frays. He steps closer, close enough that you feel the warmth of him, the scent of turpentine and rain. His hand almost rises to touch your face, but he stops himself. That restraint, that near touch, hurts more than any sin could. You turn away before he sees the tears in your eyes. When you return home that night, the house feels colder than ever. You walk straight to your desk and open the drawer. The letters are waiting. You read one at random, the ink faintly smudged, the words trembling with emotion. It is a portrait of your own undoing. You realize then that love, in your world, is never private. It is a negotiation with ruin. For a man, passion is forgiven. For a woman, it is fatal. You take a breath and begin to burn the letters one by one. The paper curls, blackens, and folds into ash. The scent of smoke fills the room, bittersweet and final. You tell yourself it is freedom, but it feels like mourning. In the days that follow, silence settles over everything. The painter's exhibitions continue, but you no longer attend. When his name arises in conversation, you smile politely as if he were a stranger. Society moves on as it always does, forgetting the whispers it once fed upon. Yet you remain caught between pride and loss. There are moments, brief and cruel, when you pass a gallery window and glimpse a familiar image, a woman's face painted in light and longing. Yours, though the name beneath it is another's. You stand there for a heartbeat too long before turning away into the crowd. Years will pass. The fashions will change. The queen will age. The city will transform. But somewhere, tucked within the folds of history, your story remains. Not in official records or society pages, but in the hidden language of glances. In the quiet defiance of those who dared to feel. You will grow older with grace, your reputation intact, your secrets buried. Yet sometimes, in quiet moments, when the night is still and the lamplight flickers low, you will remember the weight of his gaze, the scent of paint and rain, and the letters that once burned with your heartbeat. You will smile then softly, sadly knowing that passion, though silenced, never truly dies. It only changes form. It becomes the warmth in a glance between strangers, the tremor in a song sung too softly, the ghost of a memory pressed between the pages of a forgotten book. And though history will never name you, your story will live on in its margins, whispered like a secret across centuries. Because, in the end, the price of desire was never ruin, it was remembrance. You were never meant to be a scandal, nor a saint, but something rarer, a woman who dared to feel in an age that forbade it. And as you close your eyes tonight, you know this truth with quiet certainty: silence may protect reputation, but only passion gives life meaning. And so the story of Victorian high society ends not in scandal, but in echo, a heartbeat hidden behind lace, a truth written in ashes, a secret passion that outlived the century itself.